Afternoon and welcome to FutureTech Day 2. Today's topic of conversation is, will 5G and 6G become the favoured distribution channel for media and entertainment? So a pretty big question, to be honest, but fortunately we've got a great panel of guests here today to guide us through it. So we'll quickly just introduce the panelists. But first off, anyone attending today, if you've got questions, just a bit of housekeeping, if you've got questions, just feel free to fire them away and we'll address them as and when we get kind of pauses in the conversation. So it'll be great to be led by yourselves and have an interactive debate. So yeah, just use the kind of Q&A panel there on the platform. So we'll just go through our panel. Well, first off, I'm Alex Buchan. I'm Strategic Technologist at DTG. So I've been looking at 5G for media applications for a number of years now, since maybe about 2014. And next we've got David. David, just want to give a quick introduction?
Yeah, hi, I'm David Owens. I'm Head of Technical Trials at Telefonica. Been working for Telefonica for about 20 years.
And then we've got Matt.
Hi, Matt Stagg. I work for BT Sport, looking at our mobile strategy, and that's end-to-end, so from 5G production through to distribution and immersive.
Perfect, thank you. And then we got Natalia.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalia, Head of Marketing and Communications at Sceenic. We believe in togetherness and we have developed a Watch Together experience, bringing people closer together to their favorite content. And we work for telcos, media, and broadcast companies.
Thank you, Natalia. And then last we've got Alan.
Hello folks, my name is Alan Carlton. I head up InterDigital's wireless R&D activities in Europe. I'm a wireless industry veteran, been around for 30 years, have touch points all across the value chain of the ecosystem. Current interests are 5G, evolution of 5G, and looking at 6G.
Perfect, thanks Alan. Okay, so running order for today, we're going to do, everyone's going to do a quick intro of kind of how they're involved in this kind of technology, the areas they're working, some of the projects they're doing. And then we're going to have a general discussion about the opportunities, the challenges ahead, and look at some of the applications involved. So if I just give a quick intro as to why we're looking at this. So we've been looking at 5G in particular for media for many years now. And I guess if we kind of put it in the context of today's setup, I think it's fair to say that linear broadcast kind of scheduled TV is generally delivered over kind of technologies such as DTT and satellite broadcast solutions to fixed devices in the home. And then we have an element of OTT on-demand services on top of that, which a lot of people choose to watch over things like their fixed broadband and their Wi-Fi. And then on top of it, we have mobile services, which I think are generally used for things like kind of short-form video on the go, kind of highlights, that kind of thing. And then, of course, we've been looking at things like different types of receivers and applications like wearables and AR and stuff like that over the years. But I think it's fair to say that these have remained fairly niche and kind of proof of concept and never really gained kind of mass commercial takeoff. So you can see there's some of the kind of things we've been working on in the past. That Etsy report there was chaired by our now chairman Simon Fallon, was looking at whether linear TV could be deployed completely on 5G networks and get rid of DTT. And that was a kind of large bit of work that was done throughout consortium in Europe, which I was part of as well. And I think the short summary of that was that the technical answer was yes, it could be. The actual answer was no, it can't be really, because of commercial reasons. There wasn't really a business case for it, and also regulatory reasons. And then we wrote a report ourselves. You can see there, DTG 5G for media. That was more looking at, instead of kind of replacing existing services, could we complement them and what with? And then similarly, the most recent one, EBU there. We did a report looking at the distribution use cases for 5G for media delivery services. And again, I think the similar result was found, which is kind of, what's the use case for it? What's the commercial driver for it? And then that's now led to a group being formed called the Media Access Group, which we're a founder member of. And that's looking at kind of build up an ecosystem for this kind of stuff and develop the kind of devices and the kind of drive it on to another level. So we're an active participant in these things. So today's conversation is really going to look at, okay, so where do we go from here? What's next? What's coming up in the kind of not too distant future, and what's coming up in the long term? So some discussion points. There's 6G to consider nowadays. So I think the main question for today is, what is that? I don't know. So we're good to find out. So that's what Alan's here for, thankfully. And then we've got, will mobile technology purely be for handheld devices and outdoor use cases? You can see a kind of picture there of someone in the stadium looking at kind of an AR type application. And that's a project we're working on with some partners at the moment. And we've got one of them here today to talk about some of the stuff they're involved in. And then we've got to think about, okay, will 5G, 6G, whatever G, play a part in delivering to people's fixed devices at homes? And again, Matt's going to be talking a bit about a project he's involved in, looking at volumetric displays and things like that. But that's more about kind of watching things in home, and maybe a kind of resurface of wearables, perhaps. And the picture you see on the right there is the 5G mag. They're looking at commercial use cases for distribution of TV, again, to people's homes. And then I guess underlying all this is, will there be a point where free-to-air public service TV is broadcast over a mobile technology? And I guess that's not the kind of main focus of today, but through these discussions about the technology and the use cases and the business cases, we'll be able to kind of build up more of a picture of that, whether it's going to be possible. And then obviously there's the applications that we're going to look at, and Sceenic are here to talk a bit more about that and some of the ways we're going to be watching TV in the future. And then underlying all that is obviously what's the business model that's going to drive the deployments and the uptake of devices. So that's the kind of précis, if you like. That's the kind of reason why we're looking at this still at the DTG, and it's been something we're looking at for a number of years, like I said. But now we're going to go to our panelists just to kind of find out a bit more of the detail about some of the applications that you're going to be seeing in the not too distant future. So I think first off we've got, any questions? Submit your questions in the Q&A box, as I just mentioned there, and we'll deal with them as they come in. So first off, we've got David. David, over to you.
Thank you, Alex. Good afternoon, all. My name is David Owens, and as I said earlier, I work for Telefonica. I guess Telefonica, for those of you who don't know, we operate a mobile network in 14 countries. We provide service in up to 170 countries worldwide. We have the largest fiber network in Europe and Latin America, with approximately 320 million customers worldwide, worth 34 million of those in the UK. Thinking about 5G then, we must consider 5G to be more than just a pure connectivity upgrade. It has the potential to transform every sector, from transport to energy grids, from manufacturing to social and healthcare, and from education to entertainment, which I know is the focus of this afternoon's conversation. Whilst we all know that the national 5G infrastructure, when it arrives in a few years' time, will contribute an additional £7 billion a year to the UK economy, and that's just 6 years after rollout, it will have a profound impact on our lives and the way in which we live them. It will be a technology breakthrough that will transform industry and society and entertainment. You're all very familiar with this triangle, I'm sure. I call it the Harry Holmer triangle from his book, but it's also used within the 3GPP world as well. 5G comes with three technologies. The first, which is here today, and you'll see in a minute when I display my timeline, the timeline for these technologies, is EMBB, Enhanced Mobile Broadband. And that will deliver what we term as unlimited experiences. Great for the entertainment industry. It's here today, and we can deploy it today. The other two technologies will also bring a profound change is the URLLC, which is ultra reliable low latency communication. And along with that will come low latency networks, which will provide control loops for collaborative robotics, computer vision, and other really highly reactive systems. It'll also bring private networks, and it'll also help with network of networks as well. So joining up satellite coverage with terrestrial network coverage within building solutions will deliver what we call ubiquity. So a really important step. And then finally, IoT for everything, which us engineers call MMTC, massive machine type communication. And there's some great use cases around massive machine type. It's IoT, as we know, so that will help power our smart cities. It'll help us instrument our world as well. So we now look specifically at the technologies that 5G brings. As with all introductions of all new technology, we get new spectrum. But that spectrum has to be at a reasonable price. You know, we had with the 3G license fiasco a huge burden of debt put on the mobile operators. 5G is going to need considerably more spectrum than all of the previous generations put together to deliver on its promise. And we have to ensure that, you know, that spectrum comes out in a timely fashion at the right cost. Then if we look at massive MIMO and beamforming, this will increase speed and improve capacity dramatically in our city centres. Network slicing is a core function which allows us to focus resources to deliver services with given quality of service. So, for example, critical communications can be prioritized over YouTube videos. Or if you're running a factory, you want to make sure that your collaborative robots have more network capacity than, say, maybe the staff playing YouTube videos or playing games. There are other more practical applications, of course. Then obviously one of the real important parts of any generation is coexistence with previous generations. Now, obviously, when we launched 5G, 5G and 4G have to work very closely together in its initial release in what we call non-standalone. But as it goes through the rollout and becomes standalone within the next year or so, we will still need that coexistence with 4G. And then finally, it's a cloud-optimized network technology. So with software-defined networks and function virtualization allows us to scale networks as we need them to be flexible and dynamic to meet our customer demands. You'll see on the left-hand side, I've just tried to summarize the gains of 5G new radio over LTE 4G. You can see that mainly 10 features in the column, but it would also, and importantly for all of us, I'm sure, is the energy efficiency as well, and the spectral efficiency, which allows us to get more from our valuable spectrum resource whilst keeping ourselves more energy efficient as we start to use more data. Looking then at the 5G use cases based on 4G and 5G capabilities and technologies, you can see that as speed increases, it allows us to do more with video, and that as latency reduces, it allows us to do more with system control. And this is really important, as we've said earlier on, for us to help society and not just consumers. I mentioned that I would show you a roadmap of the technology. You can see where we are today in the 2020s, which is sort of middle of the way through the 5G features that are coming on the right-hand side. So today we have enhanced mobile broadband. To come next year is 5G SA, 5G standalone, the ultra-reliable low-latency communication and massive machine-type communication will then arrive in early 2023. We should also at that time see the millimeter wave channels, which are these ultra-wide channels that will allow us to deliver gigabit speeds on the mobile network, will arrive around that time as well. O2, really we feel that the biggest opportunity isn't with our consumers as it is today, but is in the way that it'll transform businesses, utilities and critical infrastructure. So we have taken a customer-led approach to our 5G network and went out and talked to all businesses across all sectors to explore how they could make the best use of 5G. So that this allows us to bring a customer-led solutions to market for each of these sectors. And our work on our DCMS project, as Alex alluded to earlier, has really helped inform our view on what services are there today and what opportunities 5G presents. So just trying to sort of summarize all of the research that we've done with our customers, it breaks down broadly into three main areas: driving operational efficiencies and new business models, empowering and safeguarding employees, delivering personalized and interactive customer experiences, which is really important for today's conversation. It's around that media and entertainment piece. So in closing then, just to sort of talk about some of the challenges that we face with 5G new radio, is obviously the cost of the technology needs to come down by an order of magnitude or two to support the required site numbers that we need to roll out, which is maybe 5 to 10 times as many as we've rolled out so far. And that's taken us maybe 30 years to get that far. We need the completion of the 5G standards to release 17. We're currently sat at release 15, with 16 coming in the next year. Planning regulations need to be relaxed and rethought, namely PPG8 and the GPDO and the National Planning Policy Framework. And finally, as I said earlier, spectrum is the lifeblood of a network. You know, we see our traffic growing, doubling every 18 months. So that's a whole new network's worth of capacity every 18 months, which is a challenge for any business, as you can imagine. But that spectrum has to come at a realistic price, and that helps us develop the additional revenue that we talked about earlier. So Alex, that brings me to the end of my section. So I'll hand back to you.
Many thanks, David. Brilliant. So any questions, as I said, just pop them in the chat. I don't think we've got any just yet, but feel free to drop them in as we go along. Next up, we've got Matt Stagg. So he's going to be talking about his activities with BT. Sorry, Matt, I've already got your slide up there ready.
No, that's right. I've only got one. It just we'll go through that. Thanks, David. Yeah. That was a really good introduction. And especially the plans. And now we all know where the technical questions are going, and please steer clear of me with them. So I'm going to talk about, so as I said, I look after the mobile strategy for BT Sport. I also work in the wider group, looking at where things that we incubate internally for our own use could be used within the wider industry, and one of them that I'll come on to now is things like 5G for remote production, which we work with our media and broadcast colleagues, and then in the wider industry. So I also sit, I came across from EE when BT were bought, where I was head of media and entertainment, and specialising in sport and how we can deliver sport over mobiles. And as Alex alluded to, there was a lot of work being done there about how we can deliver, high concurrent usage. That was on the 4G days and then LTE broadcasts. I also sit on the DCMS-funded UK 5G think tank, where I'm in the working group for creative media, and that's I represent UK sport in that. So we have split our focus and innovation into three broad areas. This has come about just through looking at where 5G can play a part, having a very early vision, and able to separate it out to, there's many different pieces and teams and industry forums that sit within, if you look at sport end to end. So one of them is production. I'll come on to that one first. So that's anything from capture, 5G enabled cameras, looking at how private networks play a part, slicing. I'll come on to that first. The next is augmented reality and immersive experiences within stadiums. Or when I say within stadiums here, I guess I should just say within events, because there's great use cases for augmented reality within any sport. but they change. You know, what you would be looking at in a stadium at football is very different from what you're looking at when you want to know if you're at a golf match and you want to know what's happening on some of the other holes and things like that. The next one, and we have a lot of in-flight information to give you about this, is outside of the stadium, deep immersive technologies. So they're anything from, as you can see there, a curate your own experience using wearables, and we're really doing a lot of research into where a device fits for this. And as you can see, devices are actually very good for just looking at overlays and augmented experiences within the stadium. Outside of the stadium, you want to be able to curate your own experience, but that needs to be a personal experience led by the broadcaster. So we provide tools to enable people to curate their own experiences. Then looking at holographics and volumetrics, offloading processing to GPU-based processing at the edge of the network. So firstly, I'll come on to the road production. So we, BT Sport, working with 5G, were able to do a trial at the Wembley Cup. It was quite a while. It was over it was nearly 2 years ago now. 2 years ago, in fact. And that was a pre-launch of 5G, and it really did. We just wanted to show how, if it could be done. We often looked at using untethered 5G cameras for remote production. And we were really looking at it to say, okay, is this something that really could help with some of the lower tier sports, where you don't have, very highly cabled, fibered stadiums, etc. And then you could go and we do use 4G. For remote production now, we bond 4G in encoders, but there is still a best effort part of 4G. There's a single consumer network. If you get to a point where there's more people using it on the uplink, which is what we want as a broadcaster, then things are going to congest and we can't afford to lose signals. So that's where we bond multiple ones. Where 5G comes in and is particularly of interest is the ability to be able to, we kind of don't use private network as a word or concept anymore, because for broadcasting, we're more interested in non-public networks, we say, because really there are many ways to cut this cake. We want, as an industry, we have a requirement, and that's to have a certain amount of bandwidth in a certain location for a certain amount of time at a steady latency. And I say steady latency, we want low latency, but the most important thing is to not have variance. We can work with latency as a broadcasting industry and have done for many years, but we need it to be steady. And the difference between 4G latency and 5G latency for us, when we look at the end-to-end workflows, it doesn't really matter. But then we can look at, so that could be anything. That could be 5G in a truck. You drive up to an event, you have the whole network, core network, and then you need a single fiber of backhaul, and you think about golf, that sort of thing, covering the Masters. There's a very good opportunity there, but also, the same in certain areas where you're going to want this technology for your cameras. Then we've talked, David talked about slicing and how that can play a part. We're very interested in that as an industry. And then also, again, as we've said, we have requirements, and that can be done from a mobile network operator doing slicing or maybe prioritization. So I think it's worth, as a broadcast industry, and now obviously it's a little bit skewed for me because I work in the mobile industry as well, so I understand some of the complexities and techno-economics of that. But as broadcasters, we just have requirements and we want them met. So untethered 5G cameras. When we did the trials with at some of our lower league clubs, they're great, because you do remote production there. So remote production, for anyone who doesn't know, is we don't send a huge outside broadcast truck. we keep everybody back in the gallery in our studios, and we just send all the feeds from the camera back and all of the audio feeds, and just send cameramen and a couple of presenters and some sound people, as opposed to, you know, the whole team. That's great on a number of levels. You can put on a lot more concurrent events, because you don't have to move people around to different locations. You know, we've only got a certain amount of people and trucks. It's much better from an environmental point of view. You know, we really don't want to be sending trucks up and down the motorway, all around different areas. And then all of our people have to go to hotels, use hotels, all of the environmentally issues that come with that. And when we talk about people, the other great thing, and for me, this is the number one, is the work-life balance, not having to go away for the weekends, not being away from your family. And I think we've all seen that now in this current environment, where you know, we are used to being able to see our families more. And in fact, we had to move from a remote production model, and this is remote production with fiber or other technologies, into a distributed model when we were trying to get back on air after we're in lockdown. And that means that we had, you know, a sound person in one part of the country, and a vision mixer in another, and a commentator in another. So that's really good. And the creative opportunities it opens up, our directors having completely untethered cameras, really, really gives us an opportunity to take the fan to the heart of sport in ways we haven't been able to do before. Now we come on to the in-stadium, and this was touched on again by David. So we look at this as mixed reality. Very difficult. There's the, you know, XR, AR, VR, you know, if it's interactive, we call it mixed reality. So that's where you'll be able to have an augmented experience. That could be watched from any seat. You know, if I'm a season ticket holder, I've only ever sat in one seat, and my seat was always the one that my dad could afford, which was in the car park. And then I'd like to actually see the goal from the other side, somewhere else. So that's best seat in the house, overlays, how fast people running, when was it, and what are the stats, polling, competitions, and also a big one is safety. You know, if there's an event, where's my nearest exit? Where's my seat when you walk in? You know, people don't often go to 80,000 seater stadiums, and it can be quite an intimidating experience for some people. So the next area that we're looking at, as I said, is on the immersive experience, either in the home or in a location. And actually with some of these things, when you start to talk about the wearables, anywhere can be your entertainment center. So we bid and are leading a consortium as part of the DCMS 5G Create program. And what that is set to look at was, there was offering of funding if, for the creative industries, consortiums could come together with, you know, the arts and sport, startups, academia, and start to really accelerate some of this thinking. So we were very lucky to have won some of that funding, and we have a consortium looking at how we can use offloading processing, so graphics processing units, into the edge, to be able to take have these immersive experiences, but in a lightweight fashion at very low latency. So I think, you know, we all see some great things that can be done, and I'll come on to some of them. So the problem is, everyone wants to have, you know, even with devices, the amount of processing you need to do to render full volumetric video of something like a boxing match, which we'll come on to, just makes it prohibitive. You know, the devices, you know, even though they do have high processors and they could do it, they'll just heat up. You move on to wearables, the whole point is we're moving towards the augmented reality ones to just be glasses. So you have your glasses on, you see everything, but then you curate your experience. So you really do need to, you don't want hardly any processing, if any, you know, but at the moment you have to tether them to phones. So where can we put that? Because obviously then you start to be able to bring the wearable prices down, they become lighter, there's more of them. and the scale of being able to use GPUs in the cloud. And we're also looking at where those sit. Very expensive when people talk about edge computing on a cell site or in 500 aggregation sites. We really need to look at the sweet spot between low latency performance and the techno-economics of having so many of these things. So there's 4 projects. I'll very quickly run through them. It's this one you can see here, where you can curate your own experience for the MotoGP. Very good to do this with sports, because motorsports are great for this. So I'm sat with my friends, we have our glasses on, we're talking normally, but I've set my screen up, big screen in the corner, that stays there anchored in real world, because I just like watching and having a beer and chatting to my friends. I just want the post-production feed that broadcast that everyone sees. My friend, on the other hand, and this does happen a lot with, if you know petrol heads, he wants to know every statistic. He wants to have every rider's helmet. He wants the helicopter camera on all the time, the feed, and a holographic representation on the tabletop of where everybody is. And that's fine. A lot of these people want to know tire pressures on corner. But the whole thing is us being able to move from a one-to-many broadcasting to a one-to-one experience and be able to provide these. Next one in that third bracket, if you like, strategic area, is volumetric, full volumetric. And we're looking at doing something with boxing where you will have a full rendered volumetric holographic representation of the boxing match in fully synchronized with the broadcast feed and ceramic sound to be able to walk around it. I should give a shout out very quickly to the consortium members, which are obviously BT Sport leading. Condensed Reality are looking at the volumetrics. Grid Factory have a lot of knowledge in GPU offloading. We have a company called Dance East, which is actually our final demonstration in this project. They're a dance company, and we're looking with them of how we can do volumetrics capture of dance in real time to be able to reach some of the children that can't make it to classes and everything. Sorry, I'm going to have to move on, but that's all we've got here.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Yeah, sounds like you're busy then. Lots going on. Yeah, we have had a question, but it mentioned 6G as well. So what we'll do is we'll take that one once we've heard from the other 2 presenters, and then we'll get a kind of view from everyone that one, if that's okay. So next up, we got Natalia.
Thank you, Alex. Hi, everyone. So I'm Natalia again, Head of Marketing and Communications at Sceenic. We are a software company. We are a B2B, and we have created what we call togetherness APIs and SDKs to bring closer people together. That's what we focus on, bringing people around their favorite content and provide services to telcos, media companies, and broadcasters. Our main product is Watch Together. We created Watch Together in 2013. That was 7 years ago. Something that you might be very familiar as now that COVID has brought everyone to be very far away from each other, and the importance of being together even more important than before. So I'm going to leave you first with this. Georgia, I'm not sure how to go to the next slide. Okay. I think something's going on. Okay, I think the two videos played one next to the other one. It was not the progress, but anyway. So Watch Together means bringing people closer together by creating a personalized experience inside our clients' platforms. As you've seen, one of our clients, and we are recently announcing our partnership, is BT Sport. We have been working with BT since 2018, and they were the first sport broadcasters to believe in the idea of bringing people around their favorite content. What we do is that we deployed inside OTT platforms of our clients, and then it's all about the experience that the user gets. Fan engagement is what we believe is one of the things that adds more value to the experience of them. So having them to create like personalized rooms inside their OTT platforms and share that content viewing. When it comes to the work that we have done with BT Sport, and I will amplify more about what is exactly we are doing with them together with EE and 5G network, it's all about, again, the experience. In 2019, we deployed our technology on 5G together with Digital Catapult and the Brighton Dome. And we were one of the first use cases to show the value that 5G brings for the users. As a case study, we were able to prove the improvement of the connectivity, how it is reliable on mobile devices, the enhancement of the quality of the video and the sound, which means a better quality of experience, lower latency, the synchronization between the screens of the viewers, as well as the conversation that they're having is very minimal. Also, stable quality performance and the reliable and beneficial option for future live sport broadcasts, which I think Matt just mentioned a lot into that, and removing the limitations on how many audience you can get. There are different things that are happening right now in the market. We have focused on the personalized experience, but there are like ones that are like bigger and wider, which means having watch parties when you have like people as if you were going to the pub, random people, or watching together at the same time. So what we have been doing, we work with BT Sport, as I mentioned before, and also with NPO. NPO is the Netherlands public broadcaster. They just deploy NPO Summon, which means NPO Watch Together, which again allows their users to create private rooms and share their favorite content viewing. Right now, we are announcing our partnership with BT Sport and the Matchday experience, which has many different features, which are the AR 360 and a lot of the data and some of the things that Matt just mentioned. And together with that, our Watch Together software solution. So again, this allows BT Sport fans to add 3 more people to their rooms. They create private rooms and then they can add 3 more to have the experience with their friends. We created this technology because we have believed always that people need to have like an option to be together. Obviously, COVID accelerated the process. We deployed last year on 5G, but we were not expecting that a year after we will be like the first company already running a co-viewing experience on 5G. But even after COVID, we believe that not everyone, as also Matt just mentioned, not everyone is able to go to the stadiums to sit there, and most people want to keep experiencing and have like the most immersive experience. So we are now running on 5G. We still run on 4G and Wi-Fi with BT Sport, but we are one of the first. We are the first Korean experience on 5G and one of the first to be running now and allowing consumers onto that. And also some other things that people can do with Watch Together and create different things on top of that is, for example, MPO recently during the Tour de France, they allowed the former cyclist Michael Buchner to join the people's rooms. So you will be watching with your friends or your family in your private room, and then you will get a message of him asking if you could join your room, coming inside the room, telling you like his view on what was happening during the Tour de France, and also like sharing that conversation with you, which also enhances the consumer experience. We have shown the value of 5G, and one of the things that was most important to us was to show the value for consumers and why to go and purchase a new phone and get to be in the 5G network. And it's again that the experience that you get and how much it can be created on top. So this is my overview of what we do at Sceenic, and I guess we will continue with more questions afterwards.
Thank you, Natalia. Very interesting. Yeah, it sounds like an exciting app, and I like the thought of having celebrities come and join you in the discussion in your kind of virtual room. That sounds really interesting. So we'll talk more about that in a second. We'll look at some of the opportunities with this technology. But thanks for that. We've got a couple of questions in, but we'll go to Alan first, and then we'll dish out the questions, and then we'll look at some of the opportunities and all this stuff. So, Alan.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Alex. My name is Alan Carlton. As I mentioned at the start, I head up InterDigital's wireless R&D activities in Europe. InterDigital is a company that's been around for some 40 plus years. Our interests and history is mainly in wireless technologies, but our interests go much broader than that. We acquired Technicolor last year, the research and innovation organisation. So we're very much both a wireless and video technologies organisation, and our particular model places us in makes us work in the very early stages of generational tech. So just to put that in perspective, we started working on 5G around about 2010, asking what it is, what it might be, what value could it bring. And here we are 10 years later, almost at the same place, starting to think about 6G. So, I have the dubious pleasure today to try and explain what the state of the art or the state of play is in 6G in just a few minutes. So I'll give it a go. One of the first questions I always get asked on the topic of 6G is what is going on and where are all the ideas cooking, and the simple answer on this is that there's actually quite a lot going on. Right today, we're basically at the same place with 6G as we were with 5G back in 2010, 2011. The standards discussion and the standardization activities are still a long way away, but the industrial research and consensus building phase is very much in full swing, just like it was for 5G back in 2010. InterDigital, we're involved in lots of areas of 5G, both in we've got some futuristic, crazy projects going on in the area of 100 gigahertz plus, technologies, next generation edge computing capabilities, next generation, or where the virtualization, cloud native roadmap, etc., is going. We're also involved in a pan-European US initiative called Empower, which is a Horizon 2020 project, which is tasked with trying to get some consensus going between the EU and the US on the future of wireless and one of the things that is producing is a technology roadmap for beyond 5G all the way through to 6G. We're also involved in a number of larger ecosystem activities. The biggest one in Europe right now is probably the one that's run by 6G, University of Oulu. It's called the 6G Flagship Initiative, and it's been running actually for the last 2 years. And its charter is to basically be the thought leadership, forum for discussing matters of 6G. We're seeing similar stuff starting to appear in the US. The platform for advanced wireless research is sort of rebranding itself in the direction of 6G. The ATIS NGN Alliance is the closest probably touch point to a connection to what will be a future standards input forum. That's the US organization has the US is basically is kicked that off, and I fully expect to see something similar in Europe appear in the near future, as is normal, probably under ETSI. How we look at all these, we see all of these as key consensus building, consensus driving initiatives that in time will serve to shape the definition of 6G and the requirements that the industry will agree that will drive it. So what is the state of play in terms of how we see this future emerging? And I'd go as far as to say this isn't this isn't purely just an InterDigital view. This is a sort of synthesis of a number of views that are emerging, not just from InterDigital, but from other players in the industry as well. And I think that fundamentally, I think it was David that put up the classic, 5G pyramid picture that we're all very familiar with. But we're starting to sort of challenge that view. And one of the first things that we see that is going to be driving beyond 5G to 6G will be, a push to a much wider set of use cases and market diversities. And if you look at a feature, just one example of an early indicator of that is the NR Lite feature that is being standardized right now in release 17. I kind of jokingly refer to that as a 5G oops moment, because it's, without going into the details of it, it is a new radio enhancement capability that doesn't exactly fit neatly and tidily on one of the vertices of the 5G pyramid, and we believe we're going to see an awful lot more of that, and that's going to, the grand flexibilities of 5G that have been boasted, over time, over the course of the next 10 years, could well be challenged and pushes into a next generation. The second driver is, as an industry, or as a broader industry, not just telecoms, but with inputs from the other forums, we're starting to see that 5G will probably not support some of the extreme requirements of many of the use cases that it will basically just enable the entry to. And I'll get into some of them in a little bit. In terms of what might be a new service, and all I'll say there is that there probably will not be. It may not be so new, but it will be some new service that will be at the convergence of the physical and virtual worlds. At InterDigital, we've been talking about the creation of the living network for over 10 years, and we really see 5G as a major step on this roadmap. But it's going to take much more work and a convergence of what we're doing in wireless with AI, ML, and other technologies, to fully complete this vision. 5G is enormously important. It is still a long way to run. There's an awful lot more work to be done in 5G, but in general, we believe that 5G will open the door to a number of capabilities, but we will probably need 6G to see it, at full scale, touching everybody. So some of the use cases that are being discussed within the context of 6G, we see 5 principal use cases driving the evolving wireless requirements. The first takeaway that perhaps should jump out at anybody looking at this slide is we've all seen a slide like this. We've seen different versions of a slide like this, and it does look very familiar. And the question is, okay, didn't 5G promise all of this? Yes, it did. And 5G will get us started on all of these capabilities, these use cases. But the hidden takeaway, the concealed takeaway, is that each of these splash lines conceal much longer roadmaps in their own right. If you take the multi-sensory extended reality roadmap and extrapolate it out over the next 10 years, 5G's capabilities, our capability promise of 100 megabits per second downlink, 50 megabits per second uplink, will become quite challenged because conservatively some of the more advanced capabilities that are being created and invented and standardized right now will demand closer to an average user data rate of a gigabit per second plus. So it's going to be slightly challenging, and that will push that use case alone may push us into a 6G world. 2 other use cases I'll highlight there: the connected industries and automation, autonomous vehicles and swarm systems. Again, 2 use cases discussed at length in 5G. When we started talking about 5G, it was all about vertical market players coming on board and becoming engaged, and this has happened. It's great, but they weren't there at the very beginning. They have only relatively recently, come together in large coordinated forums like the Automobile Association, AAA, the 5G AA, and the 5G ACIA, and now they are feeding in very aggressive requirements that 5G, will meet at some level, but some of them will be very challenging for 5G to meet, and it will probably require a 6G. And of course, there's that extreme coverage and reaching the last billion. That will always, that's in every generation, and we've still got an awful lot more work to do there to get to that vision. And it's not just XR. We've done an analysis across all of the different use cases, and this graphic here just gives a sort of perspective of how the different use cases will challenge the classical KPIs of 5G over the next 10 years. Some will absolutely be addressed to some extent in 5G, but it would appear more likely that we will need some new general shift to satisfy all of them over the much longer term. So it's not just use cases as well, that, like in every generation. It's not just the use case roadmap pressures that will push push to a next generation, just as in previous generations, emerging technology roadmaps that contain solutions or parts of solutions will also drive us, or could also drive us, to 5G inflection or breaking points over the longer term. We've probably identified about 10 different strands of potential technology roadmap areas that appear to have the legs to challenge 5G over the long term. But for brevity, I've just highlighted maybe my 5 favourite here today. First one is an inevitable push into higher bands. Of course, we've made a start there in 5G with millimeter wave, but this is going to be a relentless push. And even now, there's a study item in release 17 to look at 72 gigahertz applications of wireless and cellular application, and something funny happens when you get to beyond 100 gigahertz. OFDM technology starts to sort of break down. Digital technology starts to break down, and most minds agree at this point in time that as we move into much higher frequency bands, it will necessitate a new waveform development. Whether that happens in 5G or 6G, we will see. Second one, much has been talked about AI, ML over the course. Of course, it's the main value, and its value today is mainly in up the stack applications. But research is very much pushing this technology deeper and deeper. And in time, it may reshape just how we approach protocol design and radio design too. And this could drive us to another inflection point, both in the higher frequency domain and also in the more traditional lower frequency bands as well. Another interesting area that we like is intelligent metasurfaces, and this is an emerging technology area that we expect to see proliferate in the beyond 5G, 6G era. In the nutshell, this technology involves adding a whole new dimension, a whole new way of thinking about MIMO and antenna systems, and in time, introducing this whole new way of doing things could have profound impacts on RAN design. Energy efficiency, I believe an earlier speaker talked about energy efficiency. We see this being pushed front and center into 6G thinking, and it really needs to be. And 5G largely selected OFDM as a technology gone into on top of 4G. It's an excellent technology, but it's certainly not one of the most efficient, energy efficient technologies. And I could certainly see that if we elevate energy efficiency to being a headline KPI in the 6G era, then it could have significant architectural impacts, that will drive us into a 6G system. The last one I want to quickly highlight is the virtualization to full cloud edge native model. Virtualization edge has been one of the foundations upon which 5G has been built, but there's still an enormous amount of work to be done here. There are certainly technology challenges. I almost see the technology challenges here as lesser than the business model challenging issues, the regulatory challenges of moving to a much more disaggregated world, not to mention intellectual property challenges when we move away from move to a new world of many different suppliers, all with contributions to make and technologies that we use to build our future networks. My sense on this is, there's a lot of work to be done on this path, on all these touch points and all these areas, and it may be, frankly, too much for 5G to bite off, and it may take us to a 6G before we as an industry are able to embrace all the full opportunities that this particular technology roadmap area can provide. So how best to think about 6G today? Today we are very much in the very early stages of the rollout of 5G. Just to put it in perspective, we just completed release 16 in 3GPP in June of this year. That is the standards at release 1.0. Release 17 is the first generation of work to build on that. Release 17, with COVID delays, will not be complete until March 2022. So we've still got a long way to go. I would anticipate release 18 of 3GPP and release 19 will be pure 5G evolutionary releases. This is going to take us minimally to 2025, 26 in terms of, building and adding to the 5G standard. And that really should be the primary focus of everybody in the industry. That said, now is historically very much the right time to be asking what is the next thing, and it is fair to say that the path ahead does appear very rich. Us starting to look at 6G right now is completely, there's full precedent for doing this and asking this question. This is exactly what we did at the tail end of 4G. Basically, where 4G was still in its peak phase in 2010, and we did the same thing back in the 2000s in the move to 4G. The emerging use cases for beyond 5G may seem quite familiar, but do hide a truth that 5G may only open the door to these roadmaps. Maybe 5G and 6G may be, a twin story. 6G may complete the story of 5G, but that is not unfamiliar. The relationship between 3G and 4G was also quite a tight relationship. A lot of promises were made in 3G that did not get delivered until 4G. I expect the same thing will happen in the move from 5G to 6G. Extreme requirements will continue to push the evolution of wireless well beyond 5G. The XR case I put forward, conservatively, will need an average user data rate of 1 gigabit or more. Let's not talk about holographic video. We're talking terabits per second. Personally, I think that is more a 7G technology. Looking out to the future, it's not just about the use cases. There's a lot of rich, promising technology trends and areas that are coming down the pipeline, and them in themselves could break 5G and drive us to needing to move to a 6G technology standard. Not anytime soon, but in the 2030 plus sort of time frame. With that, I will hand it back to you, Alex, and happy to take any questions.
Perfect, thanks, Alan. So interesting. 5G's maybe a stepping stone to 6G, really. So we've got some questions in, so we'll go to them, and then we will talk about some of the further opportunities for this for delivering TV services and media. So first question, I think, relates to maybe what you were saying then, Alan, about the kind of living networks and stuff like that, and kind of like convergence and things. So we've had a question from John Zabritsky. Will 5G or maybe 6G converge with Wi-Fi at the radio interface for seamless mobile services as one moves in and out of buildings? Or will mobile devices still have two radio systems, reducing power efficiency? So I don't know. I mean,
I can answer that. I can answer it. I can give it a go. The way to look at 5G, 5G is probably the most integrated from the beginning solution in terms of radio technology. There is, of course, a 5G new radio, but the core network and the design of the overall system does not mandate that you have to have a 5G new radio in your system. You can the whole architecture allows you to plug in Wi-Fi or whatever radio solution that your particular application demands, and this is particularly relevant within the non-public networking, private networking domain. So I think there has been significant convergence in cellular and Wi-Fi, but in terms of converging as a single technology, I really don't see that happening. The closest I have seen in beyond 5G, 6G thinking is in the area of non-orthogonal multiple access, and there is beginnings thinkings of that in the GPP, but others in the research community are sort of exploring the application of a non-orthogonal NOMA technology as a better technology for basically running different radio technologies basically on the same frequencies at different power levels, and that may be something that is that takes it to the next level in the 6G timeframe.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think I've been in a project involved in looking at something like that about delivering TV called Web, and it proved to be very difficult to implement, I think, was the issue with that. But yeah, has anyone else got some kind of thoughts on that? We've got some other questions, if not. Next question was for Matt Stagg. The question was from Mark Easton, and it is, do you think small 5G cameras fitted to players / racehorses / race cars, whatever sports contender you've got there, will play a significant role in delivering content for the viewer to create their own experience? So interesting there. So what do you think about the kind of create your own sports event, I guess, a sports show?
Yes, I think there's probably two pieces to this question, or two parts to the answer. Sorry, one question. I think so. now we're all moving to, the big thing is moving to IP makes all of this possible, and the IP workflows. We will always be in professional broadcasting, the broadcast, the post-production feed that goes out, and that will, always be in my view, however you're viewing it, will be the primary view. Now, as devices, come down, we see a real ability to be able to have however many feeds you want. That's the thing. I think as a broadcaster, we would want to help to lead the creation of your own experience, if you get what I mean. I think one of them is understanding, exactly what you want. We could have a look at all of these cameras all of the time, but potentially they might be doing that. So I think there's an element of that, and also the limitation really is the size of the screen, because you can only fit so much. If you're looking at a second screen, you still only have a lot, and that's where I really do see this taking off with wearables, because actually the limitation is your own space. If you want, you can have cameras on, you can have screens on the ceiling, all around, however you want, on the tabletop. So I think that's those two coming together. I think the other piece that will drive a lot more content is the ability to be able to disaggregate at the grassroots level. So to be able to get at your my son's football club, you start to get, we've got AI cameras coming along. Now you connect an AI camera to a 5G SIM, and then actually you can leave that running and you can have access to it, and you actually start to get it. Only one thing, in the early trials of AI cameras, there was something on the other day where the camera kept mistaking the linesman's bald head for the ball. And so he was the only thing on there, which is, close to home, because I run the line for my son's team. So, yeah, I know how that feels.
Thanks, Matt. I guess the hazard of having short hair, eh? I mean, yeah, like you said, I think with that kind of thing, it's going to be about the proliferation of the network and the devices, and that could be some time off, as we learned from Alan. So I think that might be a bit of a slow burner, but it could, potentially be something, comes a bit further down the line.
I mean, just to respond to the sort of slow burner thing, we already have these experiences that we're looking at. It's just the ability to be able to make them better, not just is really about processing. If you do all the heavy lifting, then what you're sending to the consumer device isn't everything that you're sending back from 8K 360 cameras. That's all done at the fiber side.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. So, like you said, there's a lot of stuff kind of developing, I think, in the short to near term, that's going to make this stuff a reality. I was just maybe thinking about whether it's going to be widespread, mass commercial uptake, and maybe that's going to take a bit longer. But yeah, certainly I think the technology is ready. So, I mean, we've got another question actually about 5G broadcast. We're talking about technology. And so can anyone foresee when 5G broadcast will be adopted as the standard, or even when it'll be used commercially? Well, actually, that's one that's kind of close to my heart in a way. So we were looking at 5G broadcast for a number of years at DTG. First off, as I said at the start of the kind of presentation, about whether you could deliver free-to-air public service TV, so get rid of kind of DTT and have 5G broadcast. And the issues there have always been around not the technology, but about who's going to want to take on public service broadcast TV and the licenses and the coverage requirements from a mobile network operator perspective. And there wasn't really that commercial driver or business case for that. And secondly, I guess the technology was there in one sense, but it was a kind of bolt-on. It required extra network equipment, and it wasn't just a seamless experience. It required you to kind of reserve some capacity to deliver it. So myself and David are actually working on a project to look at 5G broadcast again with FE and BMS, and that is, instead of kind of delivering linear TV, it's about delivering kind of live events. So broadcast is always suited to live events better. So I can see a time kind of in the not too distant future, to answer your question, Manuel, is about, I think I can see 5G broadcast being a relevant part of maybe not, like I said, linear TV, but kind of live events in the not too distant future. So yeah, David, I don't know if you have anything to add to that from those two.
Yeah, so Alex, I suppose when we were looking at EMBMS before, we had very small devices, which didn't have a great deal of screen real estate. And I think the big change today is that we now have great devices today with massive screen size. So I think it's the right time. It's a bit like the iPhone and social networking came together at the right time with the right technology in 3G as it was then to deliver the iPhone. I think that FMBMS and broadcast technology has a great opportunity this time round, serendipitous moment to deliver good content on very good devices with great networking capability as well to go alongside that.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the real change for it is going to be ensuring that it's a seamless network technology that you don't have to kind of switch between. It'll just happen automatically and you don't have to reserve that capacity. And so it'll be seamless for the end user and seamless for the network providers as well. So it's not something they have to think about the kind of strategy for. It's just intrinsic in the network. So hopefully that's going to be the developments coming over the next couple of releases. Alan, we've got a question in around... Oh, sorry, go on.
It's worth just finishing off on that, Alex, just to finish off.
David, just quickly finish on Alan, yeah?
Yeah, it is the challenge around spectrum, because obviously we were saying earlier our network doubles in size every 18 months. So to continue with these digital services, we do need to investigate alternative ways of delivering content, which is why I think FMBMS is such a great opportunity for us all at the moment.
Can I just add, just from the 3GPP perspective, if folks out there genuinely have an interest in getting, a more linear TV sort of broadcast thing going in 5G, you got to get into 3GPP and speak out, because again, there's not any push right now in 3GPP, to do what would be a classic broadcast service. It's the main use case is public safety, V2X, IoT type stuff. They've made big stands to make it very forward compatible, but the only thing that's been looked at in release 17 is these three use cases, and I think they want to do more, but I just don't think there's enough voices coming into 3GPP to push doing more what I would call broadcast broadband convergence, which based upon some of the stuff I was talking about, that 5G could run out of steam at some point in the next 5 years in terms of all the things that it could do. That for me, broadband convergence just seems like some low-hanging fruit that we should be working on as an industry.
Yeah, and I think through some of the projects we're going to be working on, it'll help drive the device ecosystem, because potentially a lot of the problem last time was there was no devices, as David said, really to support this stuff, and I think getting some kind of mass commercial devices to support it will help kind of get that back into the standards or discussions. But yeah, it's certainly something we're looking at the DTG anyway. Just if I want to move on quick, because we haven't got much time left. Actually, there was a question from the Creative Works. How is 5G? So this is Melissa Hawker. How is 5G technology incorporating accessibility requirements for users with hearing and vision impairments? Alan, I think you had some thoughts on that one.
I didn't actually, but I think that was targeted at somebody else.
Oh, okay. Has anyone else got any thoughts on that one? I mean, the first thought from my point of view is that with some of the technology, broadcast technology, for example, you'll be able to get a kind of a whole bunch of different elements, kind of object-based elements of the service of the media delivered to your handset or device, so you can kind of curate a personalised experience. So if you want to add in kind of audio description or kind of extra elements for the vision side of it or hearing side of it, then that can be possible. It's all going to be there on the handset, and it's about the handset being able to kind of format that in a way that's easy to use. So I think there's definitely going to be opportunities there, but Yeah, apologies, I don't know any kind of particular aspects of work that have gone on in standards or in applications that have been delivered, unless any of our panel can add to that.
No, I was just going to say it's not really a network capability. There are a lot of work that's going into this, certainly, and you mentioned object-based broadcasting, where you can, in the basic, when you have IP overlay and being able to change things, just, having the score and being able to, on your screen, make the score bigger, and to have, as you said, visually impaired commentary, all of these things. But that's, I would say that's the role of the content owner and not necessarily the technology in terms of 5G.
I would just say we've got an accessibility group at the DTG, and this could be one of the topics we look at in that forum as well. So if you want to get in touch with one of us after the presentation, then feel free. I just want to go back to some of the presentations you gave there and some of the applications we're talking about. All of it sounds very aspirational. I mean, we're thinking about things like holographic boxing, for example. Matt, just going to you. So, I mean, we've had kind of things looking at wearables and all sorts of stuff in the past, but as I said at the start, it's never really kind of taken off. When do we see this? When do we see things like holographic boxing being in everyone's homes?
So the 5G Create project is, so everyone's homes is a different piece in terms of being able to see improve the technology around volumetric sport. Then you'll see our project 5G Create is 2 years. I would have thought we would be looking at end of next year for that particular one, just because we're looking at it. And that's part of the project itself, to work out how a business model could work. And as I said about, edge compute, very, very expensive. And, we have to work out what the capabilities are to be able to do this. Does it need such low latency that your compute and storage has to be so close to the device that it makes it prohibitively expensive? Or, ideally, anything that I look at around edge computing, ideally the application would be such that you don't need it at the edge, because that's the most expensive. But some things are going to drive that, and it has to be such a compelling offering or service that that it needs to be there. So there's got to be a sweet spot, and part of it is to look at that. How do we do it? Technology, one thing, and we're going to prove all the volumetrics, how it works over 5G. Being able to scale that to a consumer offering, we haven't looked at yet as part of the project.
Thank you, Matt. And then, I guess that leads into Natalia. Your application you were looking at, that very much looks like it is a consumer offering at the moment. I mean, you've already rolled it out in networks in the Netherlands, you were saying. So is this something that people are ready for now and can be rolled out now, or is this going to need 5G or 6G to really make it mass market?
No, it's actually happening now. It's part of like the EE together with iPhone 12 full works plan. So anyone who gets right now an iPhone 12 on the EE 5G network will be able to use the match day experience, which is inside the BT Sport app. And that is right now for all consumers, is available and it's working. So it's not something that consumers already. And I think last year, Matt even shared and BT shared views of how 5G was going to be rolled out, and that's what's the case right now. Also for us, eventually we are looking into doing more AR and creating other types of experiences for people, such as having your mom, if she's in Australia, being able to walk along with her and have that presence next to each other is something that we are looking. But for consumers, it's already there, not only in the UK with EE, I know in the US as well with Verizon. So many options are there already for consumers.
Okay, and then do you see this being purely the kind of commercial deployments in terms of, you've got a kind of commercial arrangement there with BT for delivering sports and things like that, or could we all be watching free-to-air, EastEnders with all our family, for example?
Yeah, for both, either live events or offline ones. And I think it's all about the experience that the users can get. So not only to be able to share it with your friends, but then like view the stats, get the data, view the whole around the stadium. And it's for people that not always want to go to the stadiums or are not always at the pubs. It's for those that are like at home right now with COVID. It's our current situation. So for all of us that can't even meet our neighbors, it's part of it. But in the time, it's all about for us at Sceenic, and I think for the industry as well, it's all about like what kind of experiences that we are offering to consumers. And I think that's what 5G is bringing, that we're going to get to the next level and change the game for everyone.
The BBC are trialling as well. You mentioned not just sport, but the BBC have been trialling on their tasters, BBC Together. So, it's something that, not being biased, but the one that the Sceenic people have done is definitely the leader. It does look great.
Yeah, great, yeah. And certainly, like to make it a good experience, you need the technology to back it up. Otherwise, everyone's going to be out of sync, and it won't be in sync with the actual match, the live action. So, yeah, 5G is perfectly suited to that, isn't it? David, I just want to come to you quickly. So, you mentioned that you're trying to drive operational efficiencies, and there's many areas that you're looking at for 5G deployments. Where do you see it going from a kind of? O2 are heavily involved in a lot of sporting activities. So, where do you see it creating kind of that those deployments for you in terms of delivering media and entertainment?
So are you specifically talking about FMBMS here?
Well, not specifically, but what kind of opportunities do you see for yourselves at O2 for delivering media and entertainment, if that's something you're looking to do over your network?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Yes, obviously the O2 values are focused around music, and obviously our customers love music, and therefore we support what our customers love in the O2, and we want to enhance those experiences. And we feel that we've still got a long way to go in terms of delivering real personal experiences for customers. From the moment they purchase the tickets, all the way into the event, the build up to the event, when they arrive at the event. And then as they're leaving the event, we really want to make sure that they leave with the memories of that event that they can share with their friends. So making that whole experience social, allowing it to be much more interactive when you're in the venue. And I think 5G comes along. It's not just about the technology, right? 4G has a great technology too. It's about the bandwidth and the spectrum that 5G brings with it. The millimeter wave spectrum allows us to deploy ultra-wide channels and to join at least 5 of those together in its current form. And that will mean that, speeds of up to a gigabit per second are possible, which then does mean if you do a proper stadium installation, that you can then start to really have high-speed data at these sporting events and at these music events. And really, it's really creating those unlimited experiences for our customers is what it's really all about. And we believe that 5G will help trigger that unlimited experience element. And we don't have to wait for MMTC and URLLC and the edge computing. It's here today with EMBB. So, that's the great opportunity and the promise of 5G. And certainly as we look to next year to reopen our venues, we will also look to enhance those customer experiences as they're coming back to music from, the post-COVID world. But also for those people, who can't make it back to the venues, or to extend that venue, crowd out to a wider audience, you could start to see that 5G and FMBMS could provide a greater audience capability, a live streaming capability. And that's what's so fascinating about the 5G Create competition. 5G Festival, bringing the festival side of it, and then, the 5G project that we've been looking at, bringing maybe sporting experiences to new audience through technology. So it's a great opportunity for our business to improve the customer experience at these events and really enhance it.
Yeah, thank you very much, David. speaking of broadcast again, we've had a conversation about, we had a question in from RTE about DTT in particular in 5G broadcast. So is there a medium or long-term case for broadcasters to move to 5G broadcast? Alan, I think you had some thoughts on this one, did you?
Sure, it's largely along the lines of what I said earlier, that if you just look at what the use cases that are driving broadcast in the main 3GPP 5G community, and that is really looking at public safety and vehicle to X, VTX and IoT type applications. There's not an appetite yet for traditional DV type broadcast support in 5G, and so I would certainly classify it as a long-term case because again, as I mentioned, release 17 will not be complete until March 2022. So you're looking beyond that significantly before we might see 5G formally supporting with the 5G radio and the 5G system, a linear TV type broadcast offering.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, certainly from the work I've been looking at, I can't see a situation where you would replace DTT with 5G broadcast, for example. There's the existing receiver base out there. You'd have to change all of that. I think Ofcom in the UK have said they foresee DTT existing until probably 2030 at the minimum. And I think by then, if there's going to be a migration off the DTT platform, it'll be onto fixed networks. I think, as David was saying, 5G broadcast is going to be more about complementing and reaching new audiences that DTT can't reach at the moment, like in Stadia on the move, in cars perhaps with radio and stuff like that. So we're nearly at the end. Actually, we've got all the way through this, and I'm sure we could easily talk for another hour. But fortunately, we've got 4 minutes left. So I think we're going to have to go to the panelists just for a quick wrap up, gives a summary of where you see all this headed. Perhaps if you've kind of got any kind of further thinking on it from what you've learned today, and what's happening next. So we'll go in the same order that we started with. So David, if you want to do a quick summary, we've got 3 minutes left, so it'll have to be pretty quick.
Yes, I'm really just excited about the opportunity that's here for more engaging, immersive experiences with our customers using 5G and the music events and sporting events, and bringing it all together into a coherent space and delivering better services.
Thank you, David. And then we got Matt.
Similar to David, I think it's just a great opportunity. Certainly, I really like the fact that the broadcasters and the content industry coming together and being part of 5G and part of the development of 5G, as opposed to sort of here's a network, go and see what you can do with it. And I think we're really going to see some exciting things coming along in the future using the technology.
Thank you very much. And Natalia.
Yeah, so I think going back to the main question, whether it's going to be the favorite distribution channel for media and entertainment, I think 5G allows for users to go beyond the experience and also personalize it. And I think that's one of the key things, not only at the stadium or at the concert, but away from it. So I think it's all about the experience that we're going to provide to the consumers and how they will be able to choose and pick and create their own experience and personalize it and go further. And I think that's what 5G enables everyone to do.
Thank you. And Alan?
Just to reiterate, 5G is very much still in its very early days. We've got a long way to go with it. I don't see us moving to a 6G standards process until at least 2025, 26. To date, I think the greatest accomplishment of 5G has been to date, it's horizontalization of telecom, and what I mean by that is brought a lot more voices into the discussion on where wireless technology needs to go, or particularly cellular wireless technology needs to go. So, I see broadcast very much part of that, and the more voices that we can get coming into forums like 3GPP will get it going in whatever direction you need to take it.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all my panelists, and really interesting discussion. I mean, I think the question, as Natalia said, was, will 5G and 6G become the favoured distribution channel for media and entertainment? I think it's going to continue to be a mix of the existing platforms, but complemented with all these exciting new applications and features. And as Matt was saying there, I think the main change nowadays from when perhaps I started looking at 5G for media back maybe 6 or 7 years ago, is that now we're seeing a coming together of the mobile industry and the broadcast industry to realise some of these new and exciting features. And as Alan said, maybe 6G is going to be the thing that takes it onto mass audiences, but in the short to medium term, we're going to see a lot of this stuff coming out with some very interesting use cases. So all that's left for me to say is thanks everyone for watching. I appreciate that. We've got lots of content on our website if you want to look at that, and the 5G media report that we wrote as well. Thanks again to our speakers for their time, for their insights. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you again tomorrow at the next FutureTech event, which is tomorrow afternoon. Thanks very much.
Thank you.